Hey you guys, today we're talking about how do you retire in 5 years using 5 steps. If I had to start over again, this is what I would do in terms of my real estate investing journey. If you're ready for that, let's go. Hey guys, DM here and welcome back to Lifestyle Leaps. On this channel, we always talk about how to achieve financial freedom and early retirement. And I do it using a few strategies. One is my house cleaning referral agency. I run that. I also have online courses to teach other people how to start that kind of a business. But primarily what I'm focused on now in my life is real estate investing. And I also needed the referral agency and the business to fund the real estate investing, right? So when it comes to real estate investing, some of you may know, I actually filed for bankruptcy. I think it got cleared in 2014. And only 7 years later, I was able to semi-retire owning multiple real estate properties that was generating thousands of dollars in cash flow every single month. And now that I've gone through the journey, I look back and I think I could have done that a little bit better. And so today I'm gonna tell you, if I had to go back, what are the 5 steps that I would take in order to retire in 5 years or less through simple real estate investing. I'm not talking about creative financing, I'm not talking about wholesaling, I'm not talking about gray area or complex real estate strategies. We're gonna be talking about buying homes off of the MLS, using a real estate agent, using very simple strategies. If you're ready, let's get into it. The first thing that you have to realize is before you can even take the 5 steps, there is step 0, which is your baseline. So you can't really start this journey yet unless you have paid down all your debt and also have some savings, right? So first of all, paying down your debt, why is that so important? The obvious answer is to lower your minimum monthly obligation so that you have enough room to pay for a mortgage or emergencies that come up based on now being the owner of a home. But also you got to look at it from a lending perspective. A lender is going to look at what's called a debt to income ratio. So if you have a lot of debt compared to what income you bring in, then you're not a very good candidate to purchase a home and take out a new loan, because that'll be more likely that you'll default on that home loan because you're not prepared to prioritize your mortgage payment if you have a lot of other debt as well. So eliminating debt is super key. I would also, pro tip for you is that eliminating credit card debt is actually pretty hard even if you pay your credit card off every month, right? Because when you pay your credit card off every month, to eliminate that from being seen by your lender, you would have to, in that 1 month, pay off that credit card and pay for every purchase that you would normally put on that credit card on your debit card or in cash. Therefore, you're double dutying where your money goes. So you're actually always a month behind, by the way, if you use your credit card and pay it off every month. Keep that in mind. You're gonna have to do that before you apply for the loan, because otherwise it will appear as if you have a standing balance on your credit card, despite the fact that you say that you pay it off every month. So paying off your credit cards, paying off any car loans. And here's the catch though, with the car loans, I don't want you to think that you have to pay off your car loans. But what they're looking at is your debt to income ratio, right? So if your car payment is like $100, but you have $30,000 left on it, or whatever the case may be, it might not be worth it for you to take $30,000 in cash and pay off a car when your monthly obligation is only like $100 or $150 or $200. So with that one, I would consult a lender, because it may not be necessary for you to use that much cash to eliminate that payment, because perhaps what you make in income is enough to qualify you for your purchase price that you're looking for. So with that one, I would definitely consult. So once you've eliminated as much debt as you can and have a clear picture of the best debt to income ratio possible for a lender to review, then you work on saving money for the down payment. So the question is, how much money should you be saving? I do, if it's an owner-occupied home, for a single family home, I do 5%. And we're gonna talk about multifamily in the next step. But the reason why I talk about a low down payment with you now is because I think cash is a lot harder to come by. But if you can strategize correctly, cash flow is easier to accomplish than a chunk of cash, right? So in one of my other videos, I'll link it down below, we compare down payments. Like if you pay 5% down versus 20% down, the difference in that amount, especially at the higher price point homes, it's going to take you years to get that money back, to save that money back up again. And meanwhile, you could put the lower percentage down and then have a house hacking strategy where you're not even paying the difference in premium a renter is. A roommate is. Someone else's money is doing that, not even you, but you can get into that house sooner and start building equity sooner. So for that reason, that's why I always tend to go with a lower down payment. Start saving for your down payment for the next house. In order to do that, you have to figure out about the price range that you can afford, and then figure out if it's gonna be the 5% or an FHA loan is 3.5%, or whatever percentage that you're comfortable with. But that's what I would do, okay? Then you're gonna have to also make sure that you have an emergency savings account that is separate from your savings for the down payment. And that is gonna be 3 to 6 months of living expenses that you don't dip into, and it really is for an emergency. So you've got no debt or as little debt as possible. You've got your down payment saved up, and you've got your emergency fund or reserve fund. Now we're ready to move on to step 1, you guys. So step 1 is going to be buying a fourplex. That is what I would do. If I had to go back and do it all over again, I would totally buy a fourplex. Now, I couldn't at the time because I was really eager to get started and I didn't quite qualify. In fact, to buy my first home, my sister and my brother-in-law at the time had to co-sign with me. And I'm so grateful for their help. I had a plan to roll them out of the deal by either refinancing or selling the house. Eventually, I sold the house and took the profits, but you know, I wasn't even qualified to do that. Now, the first house that I bought in real life, it was a house and a granny unit in the back. But if I could turn back the hands of time, I might have waited just a little bit longer until my income qualification was allowing me to buy a fourplex. And here's why. The FH loan program is a very, very unique loan program that I don't know of anything else like it. It allows an individual to buy up to a 4-unit, I don't know what you call it. I call it a fourplex. You can call it a quadplex, but you can buy up to 4 units, still put only 3.5% down. They also have a lower credit score requirement, and I was able to buy a home on the FHA loan only a couple of years after filing for bankruptcy. So there's a lot of forgiveness in this loan program. The other thing too is that when you buy a fourplex, even if your income immediately doesn't qualify for the price of that fourplex, you have to move in and live in one of the units. But the rents that you collect on the other 3 units, 75% of that, the rents on that will be allocated towards your income to qualify you for it. And of course, you know, speak with a lender to verify all of this information because it could have changed or is different in your area. I don't know. To me, that is such a unique opportunity that I don't know of any other products that offer that advantage. So with such a low percent down, you can go into something that has multiple rentals. The reason why I love multiple rentals is because it spreads your risk of vacancy. It's very, very unlikely that you're gonna have all 3 units vacant at the same time versus if you had just a single family or a duplex. When the other unit is vacant, it's vacant. This spreads the risk of vacancy and feels pretty comfortable for me. Then you determine the price point in your area of what approximately a fourplex costs. You save 3.5% down. You have your 3 to 6 months emergency fund. Go to the lender, they figure out how much of the rents of the other 3 units can be used towards your income for qualification purposes, and hopefully that works out and you buy a fourplex. That's what I would do. Then from the 3 units, if I had a choice, I would rent one as a long-term rental and the other 2 as either short-term or mid-term rental, depending on what my city ordinances allow and what my tolerance for management allows, right? Because short-term rentals require more cleaning turnover and more management versus a midterm renter who's staying for multiple months at a time. You only have to answer questions at the beginning when they first move in, but then after that, they're pretty good on their own. They don't need the training wheels anymore. So that's what I would do. And then the rents in the 3 units should pay for your own mortgage. You might even cash flow. This all depends on your market, right? Your rental market versus your real estate price market, but it should pay for the entire mortgage, if not allow you to cash flow. Then now you can supercharge your savings, because prior to living here, you probably had to pay for rent in some capacity. Now you don't, and you might be even making extra money. You're gonna build up your emergency fund to cover 3 to 6 months of living expenses based on the new obligations, financial obligations that you have now. And you're going to save for the down payment on the next home. In this case, for me, I would buy another single family home using a conventional loan at 5% down to move in and then rent out the other unit, like a junior accessory dwelling unit or an accessory dwelling unit. So I would buy a home that already has a unit in existence. If I can't find that, or I can't find that in my qualification range, then I could buy just a single family home, but then do a conversion for a bedroom and a bathroom to section that off as a junior accessory dwelling unit and give them a kitchenette and an outdoor entry and rent it out like an apartment. That's gonna cost less than converting a garage into an accessory dwelling unit, because the bedroom and bathroom already exist. So I would go that route. And if it's possible to also add an accessory dwelling unit, depending on the math of the area, I would consider doing that as well. Now that you've purchased that second home, you're renting out the fourth unit in your fourplex. Keep in mind too that you would have had to live in your fourplex for at least a year, which is probably how long it would take for you to save money to buy the next house anyway. But because you bought it under the FHA loan and it had to be owner occupied, you would have needed to live there for at least a year. And then, and also that's really good, because the income that is coming in from those other units, if you do at least a calendar year on your tax returns, you can show your lender when you go to buy the next house, look at this last year's income. It shows on my tax return a full year of rental income, right? That looks better than only 6 months of rental income or what have you. So you live in it for a year. Now you're moving into this other home that has a little suite unit already to rent out. You're living in the main home. Would you consider getting a roommate? Would you consider, like I said, doing other conversions to create more income sources coming in through that house? And now, is there a potential for you to live in that house for free based on those income sources and have a very strong cash flow coming from your fourplex? And then you're gonna do the same thing again. It's important during this time for you to maintain your lifestyle at a minimum. You might see a lot of money coming in, and if this is the first time that that's happening to you, I totally understand how exciting that can be. But you need to save everything, keep your lifestyle low so that you can achieve this in the timeline that we're talking about. Saving money to buy enough property to retire in 5 years or less, right? The other thing too is to keep your income flow strong. That means if you have a W-2 job, it might be a good idea to stay in that industry for sure. Keep your W-2 payments consistent. If you are getting money from a business and you qualified based on your business income, then you're gonna wanna keep that steady or growing, right? Because you still need to continue to qualify. Like I mentioned before, it's good to have at least 12 months of rental history. So as you are in the second property, before you move on to the third, it might be a good idea to have a full 12 months of rental income history on this home, so that again, it reflects on your tax returns to prepare you for qualifying for that next loan. Why would I buy another single family home instead of buying another fourplex using the FHA loan? To my understanding, the FHA loan program only wants to see you have one FHA loan under your name at a time. So you already have that on the fourplex. Now, if you're in a situation where you can now refinance the fourplex into a regular loan, and you have enough equity to do that without having to put more money into it, then fantastic. You will have freed up an FHA loan possibility for yourself to perhaps use again in the future. But I'm gonna assume that that's not the case, and you currently still have the FHA loan tied up and your current conventional loan on your current house. When I was telling you about the 5% down, or any of these, anything that you do less than 20% down, you're gonna have private mortgage insurance. And that is common. And that could be eliminated by having 20% down to begin with. But to me, that's not worth the price of having to put that much cash up front, especially in my area. Homes are very expensive. Like a fourplex in my area would be at least $1.2 million. So, and that's for like a low end one. So to me, it's not worth it to put that much more cash. And like I said before, your renters are paying for the mortgage, so that's not even your own money that you're paying for that. However, if you do enough construction, the price of the property increases in value. On the conventional loan one, you can have an appraiser come out or an appraisal done on the home to assess your new amount of equity in the home based on its improvements and or market price changes. And you can thereby eliminate your mortgage insurance premature, which is what I did. 2 of my properties I bought that had PMI on it, I was able to, within 2 years, do construction and the market prices increased. I got a reevaluation and the PMIs dropped off. So that's a great tip for you to increase your cash flow and reduce your expenses. And that is not a refinance. So your interest rate and your loan would stay in place. It's simply the PMI that drops off. As we move on to the third property, I want you to remember the key factors. Up your emergency fund to now reflect the new financial responsibilities that you have to this point. 3 to 6 months of emergency expenses. You're going to need to save up for a down payment on that next house. I'm gonna do a 5% again on a conventional loan and buy the same property type as I just did. And I'm also going to try to start saving for emergency fund repairs and vacancies. So there's a difference here that I want to distinguish. I have a separate emergency fund that's 3 to 6 months of expenses. And then I have funds that are for things that are inevitably going to happen. Having vacancies and counting on that cash flow but not having it, that's where the vacancy fund comes into play. And saving for repairs, both short-term minor repairs and long-term major repairs like siding, roofs, major plumbing issues, major electrical issues. All 3 of these things will happen. The emergency fund over here, the 3 months to 6 months of living expense coverage is possibly going to happen, but is not certain. So those are the accounts I want to distinguish with you, right? So we'll have all of those, and now we're going to save for the next house. I'm hoping to find another single family home that has a accessory dwelling unit already, or that I can create a junior accessory dwelling unit in, because every home that I want to, for the purpose of retiring in 5 years and 5 steps, I want it to be as high cash flowing as possible and mitigating vacancies as much as possible by having multiple units in one house, right? Okay, so now that you're in this house, you've moved into this new house because you have to own or occupy it if you want to do a conventional loan with 5% down. Now you're going to rent out the portion that you were living in before and essentially do the same thing at this new place. This is going to be your third property, and you may find that this is enough cash flow to allow you to be financially free and even semi-retire, especially if you're using short-term and mid-term rental strategies. That means you're furnishing the place to rent it out either by the night on Airbnb or 30 days or more to traveling workers, and you're getting that supercharged cash flow. And or you're combining it with the house hacking strategy by having multiple rental sources in one space instead of just one rental source. That's key. If you are not at the cash flow place that you need to be in order to be financially free, then you repeat this step again and you get a 4th property. I don't think that you will need to exceed a 4th property because I live in a very high-priced area and I'm able to create this kind of cash flow even at the expensive mortgages that I'm incurring. I also want to introduce other opportunities for you if you are finding yourself not able to qualify for homes in your area. On the second home, you can purchase another home out of state or out of the area in a cheaper area for only 10% down, not 15, not 20. But I believe you have to have a first home, a primary residence first in order to qualify to do that. but then it allows you to enter markets where maybe the rent rates are still really appealing, but the prices of homes are more affordable, right? That's a great tip for you because I've done that, and that is something I would repeat. I have a home in Phoenix, Arizona, and a home in Portland, Oregon, where my husband and I love to vacation at both of those places. We do use it as vacation homes, and while we're not there, we rent it out for cash flow. All right, so let's recap the 5 steps that I would recommend you take if you want to retire in 5 years or less. At least that's how I would do it. Well, we started with step 0, which is to eliminate your debt, start saving for your emergency fund, and then saving for your down payment. Step 1 would be to buy a 4-plex using an FHA loan at 3.5% down, and also using the rental income from the other 3 units to qualify yourself for that 4-plex. Step 2 would be to do a mix of a rental of those units. So you'll have a long-term renter, and then the other units you can do short-term and or mid-term to supercharge your cash flow. Step 3 would be to save up to buy your next house. So make sure that you always continue to increase your emergency fund, your vacancy fund, your repair funds, and then save for your down payment on the next property. You're gonna move into that property after having lived in the 4-plex for at least a year to show enough income for qualifications and also meeting the guidelines for the FHA loan. Then once you move into that, you're gonna do step 4, which is essentially save to buy the next house again. And so same process, increase your emergency fund, start saving for your down payment, live there for a year, and move on to the next owner occupied home at 5% down using a conventional loan. And then you might not have to do anything else. Or step 5, you repeat that process one more time to ensure that you have enough cash flow to be completely financially free and retire early using real estate. All right, guys, I hope that video was helpful for you. I know it's still quite a broad overview. You're gonna have a lot more research and a lot more legwork to do to make these steps happen, but you can do it. I did it, and I think you can do it even faster and better than I did using the strategies that I outlined here today. I love ya, and I'm gonna see you next week.